Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your being here tonight. Sorry we were a bit delayed in getting out here. It is now 7:08. I will call the City Council meeting to order. Our first order of business tonight will be our invocation. Keith Brown? Oh, Ginger's here. Okay. And after that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. I want to make an announcement before Ginger Hertenstein brings our invocation tonight. We now have to call her Dr. Hertenstein. She just finished her dissertation and she is now officially a doctor.
Miracles do happen. Mayor Green, council members, and citizens, let us pray. God, hear our prayers tonight, for you search for people who seek you, and we seek you now. You have stated that all authority comes from God, and you tell us that those in positions of authority in Duncanville have been placed here by you. They are your servants, sent for our good, and so we therefore honor them and pray for them according to your will. Let them live into their higher call, giving their unique talents and perspectives without reserve. God, consider our city. Consider its people, its leaders, its surrounding neighbors, for we are not alone in this region, and we want to make a difference. You have called us here at this time and place, so let us step into that call so that Duncanville is the best it can be. Let us be good, law-abiding citizens, feed the hungry and take care of the elderly, work together in unity and civility, not division and disrespect, embrace the stranger, and creatively move forward, grasping the hands of our youth. Let us give sacrificially for the good of our community, for we have not been the best we can be, and our failures blind us to the possibilities. But you are our God, a God of hope, and from you comes our help, and so we lift our eyes to grasp it. Take up our cause, O God. Let us rely on your extraordinary strength. I pray these things as a minister of the gospel of the good news. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge the allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. My mayor's report tonight is going to be about a festival that we're going to host here in Duncanville, a festival in Duncanville. It's September the 20th, which will be this coming Saturday from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Armstrong Park. There'll be it's free and open to the public. There'll be live music, boxing, champion junior Olympic bronze medalist in Duncanville High School sophomore Allie Garcia. First annual Ms. Festival in Duncanville, coronation by Mrs. Duncanville, a car show, boxing exhibition, face painting, inflatables, food, merchandise, vendors, and much more. So we would invite all of our citizens to come out. This is going to be a great festival. In the past, we've had Cinco de Mayo, but now we're celebrating this festival, and it will be a great time, so I would invite everybody to be here from 2 to 8 this coming Saturday in Armstrong Park. 5P is council member reports.
There's no sound.
Okay, no sound at home on television. Is there something we can correct very quickly, or we may just have to follow it? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
It's okay.
It's okay now? Councilman Boyd.
I'd like to bring to everyone's attention that on September the 18th, from 6 a.m. to midnight, is going to be known as North Texas Giving Day. This is a day that communities are encouraged to help the nonprofit organizations that have been identified. One of the exciting parts about this that they have an online donation that you can go online and you will be able to have your $25 contribution to a nonprofit would be matched by the foundation that's supporting this. One of the things I want to bring special, there are a number of nonprofits that will benefit from this, but the one that a couple of them that I've been involved with and have enjoyed a lot is one, the Friends of the Tri-City Animal Shelter. We just finished that process in which we had a very good fundraiser for them. But then there's one called the Cedar Hill Pet Memorial Project, and that is to educate and demonstrate the importance of animals in our lives, whether the family pet or a working dog. And there's a memorial down on 67 for a dog that was involved in the military, because those are working dogs just like someone you see that has lost their sight. So this is a really, really good cause, and it's a way to leverage your donations. And I think that the dogs and some of the items are going to be at the Ben Franklin's Apothecary during that period of time on the 18th, if you have an interest to go by and get further information. Thank you.
Councilmember Rutherford.
Yes, I'd like to invite everybody to the Fall Festival at the First United Methodist Church in Duncanville on Main Street it's on Saturday, this September the 20th, this Saturday. It's from 9 to 3, and we're going to have just all sorts of stuff for kids. We're going to have flu shots, a garage sale, a bake sale, books, and then there's, for the kids, there's like face painting and a petting zoo and a bounce house and things like that. So if you're out at the festival in Armstrong Park, when you finish there, we'd like to have you come over to the Fall Festival. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a little unprepared on this one, but I know that this Saturday is once again our street market, Duncan Switch Street Market. I want to encourage our folks to come to that in the older part of downtown, kind of between Center Street and the old feed store. And it's a good place to come see what people make, and there's some pretty neat things there that you can see, and there's lots of good food. And I would encourage folks to come to that. And what I'm not prepared for is, have the hours changed this time? Okay, so it's still going to start at 8, but it's going to go to 2. So this Saturday, I would encourage folks to come do that. It kind of coincides with the festival in the park and the Fall Festival at the church. So I hope everybody will come out for those events.
Councilmember Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take a moment or two to acknowledge some events that have recently taken place. Last Thursday on September the 11th, there at Hilton Garden Inn, there was an evening of remembrance sponsored by the Duncanville Chamber of Commerce, and I just want to thank Steve Martin and the staff there at the Chamber of Commerce, along with our fire chief, Sam Brody, and our police chief, Robert Brown, the police honor guard, and all of the city's staff for both supporting and participating in that event. Dale Hansen was very, very good. And if you missed it, you missed a treat. The other thing, last Saturday, September the 13th, there was the Wine and Whiskers Gala for the Friends of the Tri-City Animal Shelter there in Cedar Hill, and it was from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Dogwood Canyon's Audubon Center. And you all will be pleased to know that Duncanville had the most elected officials represented there, and each of the three cities that are owners of the animal shelter, Cedar Hill, DeSoto, and Duncanville, each mayor was asked to provide a basket that was bidded on during that particular function. And you'll be pleased to know that our mayor's basket was highly prized and well fought over by the attendees, so much so that the mayor's basket of Duncanville received the highest bid of either of the three cities. So Duncanville is getting attention again, and certainly want to thank the city staff and all of those who attended. We were well received. We received some acknowledgments from some of the other local officials that it's good to see Duncanville playing nice again.
Councilmember Dotson.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight I have a letter from our state representative, Yvonne Davis, that she sent to each of the council members today. And I was asked last night to read the letter for the public. It's a little long, so bear with me. It's addressed to Honorable David Green and Duncanville council members. Dear Mayor and council members, please accept my apologies for the tone of this letter. However, know that I write this letter after much consternation and regret regarding various conversations and actions. First, so it is very clear, I did invite Councilwoman Jeanette Jamison to join me in a meeting with Bill Hale, District Engineer for the Texas Department of Transportation, with the intent of being given an update on the I-20 frontage road project. The thought that Councilwoman Jamison had the responsibility to inform or invite other members of the council to a meeting she was invited to attend at my request is totally wrong and without merit. It has been my long-standing practice to meet and work with elected officials as necessary on matters of mutual concern for our overlapping districts, independent of the representative body. Further, if there was some thought that Councilwoman Jamison attending this meeting was out of order, it is certainly without merit. The notice that there was some operational value which required the city manager and/or mayor to be notified and participate in the meeting is totally ludicrous. Public policy being discussed between two elected representatives, in fact, does not warrant staff or city managers or other elected officials' input unless requested. While I am not sure what the origin of this discussion has been, I am certain that these set of circumstances and/or notions are very troubling to me as I attempt to work to improve the quality of life for the citizens of Duncanville and the state of Texas. So that there is no misunderstanding, I have always been respectful of the Duncanville City Council, its goals and objectives, and I will continue to work to have a strong and positive working relationship and involvement with every member of the council on issues which impact our mutual constituents. It is my hope that I will be given the same level of respect and latitude as a state representative for the area. It is very unsettling to know that the council members and/or staff apparently have time and interest in misrepresenting, misinterpreting, and maligning one's actions to serve some other goal or objective against an elected colleague. Additionally, I am in receipt of a recent email submitted to you from former City Councilman Grady Smithy, suggesting that he and I have been given inaccurate information regarding the I-20 service roads. I am not sure when he received the information he is referring to, but I am very clear on the information provided to me supporting my position regarding the I-20 service roads. so it is unclear to me why he would be submitting to the council any representation or misrepresentation of my position on this issue. There were several town hall meetings held by the Texas Department of Transportation as well as the Duncanville City Council regarding this issue. As a result of the citizens' input during those meetings, I have been very clear I do not and will not support spending public dollars on projects that do not have the support of the entire community. Consequently, as a result of the town hall meeting, there was a follow-up meeting with then Mayor Green, former Councilman Grady Smithy, Councilwoman Jameson, and Bill Hale, indicating that we would move forward with the service roads on the south side I-20 only. It is my understanding that you have a copy of the letter written to me from the Department of Transportation also, confirming this position and the department's commitment to respect and honor the council resolution and agreement. I have not wavered on that position. Again, while I am not sure of the motives or intent of these circular conversations and communications, please be assured I have no interest in games. Secondly, be assured that I will continue to work with elected officials as I deem necessary to best represent the interest of my constituents. I certainly hope this clears any misunderstandings, misrepresentations, and misinterpretations regarding my meetings and actions on behalf of the constituents of District 3. As always, please feel free to contact me on this issue or other issues of concern to you and the citizens of Duncanville, respectively. Sincerely, Yvonne Davis.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Seeing no further lights, we'll move on to item number 6P, which is a proclamation recognizing October the 7th, 2014 is National Night Out. And I have asked Councilman Harvey to present that resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation. Whereas National Night Out was introduced by the National Association of Town Watch in 1984 as a national program which would be coordinated by local crime prevention agencies and organizations that would involve entire communities at one time, and whereas over 36 million people in 14,625 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, Canadian cities, and military bases worldwide have participated in National Night Out, and whereas National Night Out is designed to heighten crime and drug prevention awareness, generate support for and participation in local anti-crime programs, and whereas the traditional lights on and front porch vigils remain a part of National Night Out, activities which have expanded considerably over the years to include block parties, cookouts, parades, visits from local police and sheriff departments, festivals, neighborhood walks, safety fairs, contests, rallies, and meetings, and whereas National Night Out is a popular and effective vehicle for heightening awareness, enhancing police-community relations, and volunteer morale, now, therefore, not I, but David L. Green, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby proclaim October 7, 2014 as National Night Out in the city of Duncanville and urge all citizens to join the Duncanville Police Department in being a part of the nation's largest annual crime/drug prevention event. The benefits to the community will certainly extend beyond one night. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Duncanville, Texas, to be affixed this 16th day of September 2014. David L. Green, Mayor, City of Duncanville. Congratulations, Chief Brown.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Mayor and council, on behalf of the men and women of the Duncanville Police Department, we certainly like to thank you for the proclamation. We've got several members of the Duncanville Police Department here today. In the back, we've got Officer Ron Wilcott, Officer Doug Siss, who's our crime prevention officer, and Assistant Police Chief Brian Hurd. If we may,
I would like to invite everybody out to the Duncanville Fieldhouse, October 7th, from 5 to 9. We're going to do a citywide crime national night out, and we'll have safety and vendor-type booths with safety materials and safety tips to provide to the citizens of Duncanville. So hopefully you can come out from 5 to 9, October 7th, down at the Fieldhouse.
We hope you come join us on October 7th. We look forward to meeting with members of the community and giving you some tips that can help reduce crime and make Duncanville a safer place to live. Thank you.
We have a second proclamation tonight, recognizing October as the National Crime Prevention Month, and I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Smith to deliver that one.
This says, whereas the vitality of the city of Duncanville depends on how safe we keep our homes, neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, and communities, and whereas crime and fear of crime destroy our trust in others and in civic institutions, threaten the community's health, prosperity, and quality of life, and whereas citizens of all ages must be made aware of what they can do to prevent themselves and their families, neighbors, and co-workers from being harmed by crime, and whereas citizens of all ages must be made aware of the dangers of crime and how they can protect themselves from becoming victims, and whereas the personal injury, financial loss, and community deterioration resulting from crime are intolerable and require investment from the whole community, we must teach citizens how to target harden, to make themselves, their homes, businesses, harder targets for criminal activity. And whereas crime prevention initiatives must include self-protection and security, they must go beyond these to promote collaborative efforts to make neighborhoods safer for all ages and to develop positive opportunities for young people. And whereas adults must invest time, resources, and policy support in effective prevention and intervention strategies for youth, and adults must make sure to engage teens in programs to drive crime from their communities. And whereas effective crime prevention programs succeed because of partnerships with law enforcement, other government agencies, civic groups, schools, faith communities, businesses, and individuals as they help to nurture communal responsibility and instill pride in the community. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor David L. Green, Mayor of Duncanville, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, I thereby proclaim October 2014 as Crime Prevention Month in the City of Duncanville, and urge all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, and businesses to invest in the power of prevention and work together to make Duncanville a safer, stronger, and more caring community. In witness thereof, David L. Green has signed his name to the seal of the City of Duncanville, Texas, affixed this 16th day of September 2014. Chief?
Again, on behalf of the men and women of the Duncanville Police Department, I'd like to thank the mayor and council for this proclamation. Crime Prevention Month is extremely important. In order to provide a safe community, we have to work together as partners. It's extremely important that we collaborate on how to make our community safer. And at this time, I'd like to ask Officer Doug Sis to say just a few words. He's our crime prevention officer.
One thing I'd like to do is reach out to all the neighborhoods in the community and try to either re-establish or start a crime watch group in your neighborhood. Some neighborhoods have kind of gone away and not done anything in a long time. Some are still active, but we would like to try to get more neighborhoods active in our crime watch program. So if you're interested, please contact my office and we'll be more than happy to work with you to get your neighborhood established.
Council, thank you very much.
Item number 8P is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the City of Duncanville for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report called the CAFRA for the fiscal year ending September the 30th, 2013. Richard? Richard Summerling, our Financial Director.
Well, I'd like to call up the finance staff if they would, and I will tell you just a few things about this award. It is given out each year based on a review of our CAFR. We have to submit copies to the GFOA, Government Finance Association in Chicago. They review it. They also send it out to 3 independent reviewers who are volunteers. So they're always 3 different people every year. They're never the same 3 people. And so they review our CAFR to see if it meets all the standards for financial reporting, including compliance with government accounting standards. And it is a very prestigious thing to meet those criteria. And it is it's a process that they also give us feedback. So we've received for 19 years running this award, and each year we get feedback from those reviewers, and we tweak our financial policies and our financial statements to make them just a little bit better each year. And I'm proud to say that I've been associated with 7 of those 19 awards, either having done it or been a part of the review process and the part of the putting together. And I know when I started here, we put things together with spreadsheets, and we had numbers running everywhere. And Tia has brought us into the 20th century and has some really nice software that I still have a hard time understanding because she maps out where everything goes. And it's a wonderful tool. It's a tool we also use in the monthly financial reports. So we're very appreciative of her efforts and all the staff. And I would like to get everyone to pass the microphone around and introduce themselves.
I'm Tia Pettis, the Assistant Finance Director. I'd just also like to say that the finance team is extremely hardworking. I'm very proud to work with each and every one of these individuals and also proud to represent the City of Duncanville. So thank you.
My name is Burhanuddin. I'm an accountant here.
I'm Jill Stottlemyre, and the Utility Billing Manager.
I'm Mandita Singh, and I'm one of the accountants over here.
Lisa Rand, Accounts Payable.
Brunswick Morton, Purchasing Manager.
Richard, did you get a certificate?
We did get a certificate, and I'm sorry that we have a copy of it. I didn't not know that we were not going to have like a proclamation or something with that, so I'm sorry.
Is it framed hanging on the wall?
Actually, the government finance officers has started a new thing, and they do give us a certificate on paper that started, but they also give us a plaque now that each year we earn, we get to put that year onto the plaque. So we have both.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9P is to receive a report from Just Balls regarding the Duncanville Field House. Can you bring that mic a little bit closer?
Yes,
Or
sir.
use the other mic down here if you want to, the handheld.
How's that? Better?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Okay, for the month of August, August and September are usually our slowest months of the year. We did have a relative slow growth, but indeed it is our slowest 2 months. Most people are getting back to school, trying to get back into the rhythm of things, but still we're always looking or trying to get ahead of the curve. So with that being said, this year, 2013 versus 2012, this month's revenue for the month of August was $39,363 versus this time last year it was at $35,871. In regards to year-over-date, the 2013-2014, we're currently at $810,431 versus last year at this time we were at $668,024. In regards to where that difference of growth is really occurring, if we break it down, we've had about $52,000 worth of growth in basketball year over year versus $23,000 last year. Growth again over in volleyball, a little bit over $2,000 or almost $3,000 in futsal, which is your indoor soccer. Cheer and dance, we've grown that year over year about $10,500. Martial arts, we've grown that about $7,000, which does include karate as well as jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu being the highest growth. Our fitness program has grown as well, which includes our Zumba as well as our boot camps. Aerobics as well has grown 2.5 thousand, and our general store cafe has grown a little bit over 30,000 in regards to versus last year, year to date. Next slide, in regards to expenditures. This month for expenditures versus last year, we did go down in expenditures. We went down about 5,000, primarily due to decreased labor, as well as the electricity, a little bit of sanitation, and as well as food court expenses, which helped with the decrease of expenditures for year over year. In regards to where our expenditures did come from the month of August, those included Z floors, which were the improvements on the floors which we needed for the month of July, summer camp, as well as parking lot. We did the labor as well as cleaning the parking lot to get ready for the month of July, golf carts, garage fans, as well as BSN, which just helped us to get ready for the month of July, which included things like backboards, pads, nets, cones, and things of that nature, again, just to be prepared for the month of July. Moving forward, in regards to new programs coming forward, we have Zumba, Halloween Blue Bash, which is in October on the 24th. We have Dig Pink, which is a community program that we're moving forward for the month of October. It is breast cancer awareness. We're going to have a volleyball event where all the proceeds will go, a donation from the city to Susan G. Komen. We've started a date night twice a month. We've already had some participants sign up to where we host every 2 Fridays out of the month, where we'll kind of keep the kids, give the parents an opportunity to go out. And then we're launching our after-school sports program at the field house as well to all of our local Duncanville schools as well. In regards to something else new we've added at the field house, we are now on social media, where we have both Twitter, Facebook, as well as Twitter. So feel free to follow us on that, where we can give you all the updates and things that are going on at the field house. In regards to upcoming events, we have Mr. Mike Kunstad is coming back on this Sunday. He's having a combine. We're launching again our volleyball and basketball league on the 22nd and 23rd of next week. Southwest Showcase will be our first big basketball tournament starting on the 28th and 29th. Again, we're proud to host again the National Night Out along with Duncanville's Police Department. We're going to have a JUCO basketball event for all of our local junior colleges. We're going to host In and Out, basically the Hamburger Corporation, in regards to one of their corporate events. It's going to be a 2-day event. That's on October the 13th and the 14th. As I mentioned before, we're going to have the Halloween Zumba Bash, and then as I mentioned before, the volleyball Susan G. Komen event for that on the 25th. All I have for you. Do we have any questions?
Questions, council? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 10P is to receive the financial report as of July 2014.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Very pleased to present this financial report as at the end of July. To get started off, we like to put a benchmark. Our expenses as of July would be at 83% of the budgeted level for revenues and expenditures. Right now, for the end of July, our general fund available balance is about 15% higher than it was the same time last year. Our total sales tax revenues are about 17% greater. So, and that's only for 8 months, and we'll talk about the 2-month lag a little bit more in just a second. A couple of other things that are good to note is our franchise taxes are about 12% up from previous year. Property taxes are at about 99% of the amount budgeted. I've talked about that before. That's not unusual because we receive those most of those taxes in the months of December and January and February. So those tax payments have already come in. Our overall general fund expenditures are about 80%, so they're just a little bit behind that 83%, which is good news. We get right into the general fund revenues and talk about those. The red bar represents 83% of the total budget, and then the green bar on the far right, the fiscal 14 actual revenues, represents where we're at as of the end of July. So you can see that we're just above that 20 million mark, which is ahead of the curve. When we look at total property tax, again, we're almost there at the blue line, which is the total adopted budget. That's not unusual. When we look at our total sales tax, remember we're 2 months behind. So that red bar, instead of 83%, that represents 67% because we actually have 4 more months to go. So we're just a little bit over that 4 million line with our tax revenues, our sales tax revenues. We look at our alcohol beverage tax. You can see that we've already exceeded the entire adopted budget this year, and we still have 2 more quarters to come. So that's not a huge amount in terms of dollars, but it's a significant increase over previous years. Our total franchise taxes, again, that's not 83% right now. We've only received 2 quarters, so that's basically 50% of the blue line or the adopted budget, and so we're definitely ahead of the curve. We'll look at total license permits and fees. Again, we are exceeding the red line, and so we're looking good with those. We look at our total fines and fees. We're getting very close. This is one of the areas that we've worked hard on with our municipal court collections and our outstanding warrants, and we're just about to catch up to where we need to be for the fiscal year. So my staff is continuing to work hard to bring those revenues in. We look at our total intergovernmental. We know that that's going to be below because we've lost our lease on the building here, and we've also are not going to be doing the SROs, so we had revenue that was coming in from the school district for those school resource officers that are no longer applicable. Our interest revenue is a very small number, but it's doing well. We're ahead of budget. Yahoo! Recreation fees, again, we're ahead of the allocation for the budget, so we're doing well there. Total other sales and services. These include things like scrap sales, I'm trying to think, we sell scrap metal. We have auction proceeds for used vehicles and that kind of thing that goes into this category. And so, again, we're well ahead of the curve. Our operating transfers in are a little bit more than the allocated budget because we had some increase because of the scofflaw, an increase in the amount over what was originally budgeted. So if we look at our general fund expenditures, again, total general government rather, is a little bit above the curve, and that's because of the unbudgeted positions of assistant city manager, and then we also have a contractual agreement for our current interim city manager. Our finance department is right there at about just a tad bit below that 83% level. Our total community services, a little bit less than the red bar, a little bit less than what should be allocated budgeted. Our total police department is below. Public Works is below. Our fire department's above. I've talked about that in previous months. That's because of the outdoor warning system that we expended money on. Then our non-departmental is just a tiny bit above, and then our transfers out are right on target. If we look at our utility fund revenues and expenditures, the total revenues are on the left and total expenditures are on the right. We're definitely making some progress, catching up a little bit with our utility fund revenues based on the warmer weather, but we've had a lot of rain this year, and so we haven't sold as much water as we had hoped to sell. But we're edging up there. Don't know if we'll get where we need to be by the end of the year, but we're edging up. And if you look at the expenditures, they're slightly below the anticipated target, so that's also good news. If we look at our utility fund revenues, penalties are on the left, and the other things like return check fees, et cetera, are on the right. So both of those are above budget. If you look at our solid waste fund, again, have revenues in the far left set of columns, and then we have our main core solid waste expenditures, and then our other financing uses, which is our transfers out to the alley fund and transfer out to the general fund on the third column, the short column, and then our total solid waste expenditures on the right. Again, we're a little bit below budget on revenues, but we're also below budget and overall on expenditures. On economic development fund, again, because of our sales tax, that's the source of revenue for the economic development fund. We are above the 83% level. Our total economic development fund expenditures are just a little bit above the targeted 83% by a hair. If we look at our 4B sales tax, again, that red line represents 67%, and our fiscal year 14 actual is well above that. Look at our Fieldhouse sports facility revenues and expenditures. Again, revenues on the right, expenditures said that backwards. Revenues on the left, expenditures on the right. So you can see that our sports facility revenues are slightly above the target of where they should be, and the expenditures are well below where they should be. Our medical self-insurance revenue premiums, again, those are above the expected point in time for a budget. Our expenditures for medical self-insurance, our medical claims continue to be very low. So you can see the green line compared to the red line on the left that we're almost half of what we budgeted for. So we've had very low claims. Our prescription costs are right there at the budgeted line. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, that's a good thing. That means that people are getting their medication on our plan and they're staying healthier. Our administrative costs are a little bit below the targeted amount. Look at our miscellaneous and interest income. Miscellaneous income is like stop-loss reimbursements. We have a policy that once we reach a certain threshold, the stop-loss kicks in. So those revenues are well above budget. In our interest income, well, we just won't talk about that. It's small, but it stinks. Our comprehensive self-insurance fund, this is for workers' comp and liability. These are our revenues that we collect from the general fund, the utility fund, and then the other funds. And we earn a small amount of interest, so small that it doesn't show up on the graph. Comprehensive self-insurance fund expenditures, the insurance premiums that we pay for the self-administration of that fund, you can see that those are just a little above where they should be. But again, that's one of those expenditures that we pay early on in the year, and there will be very, very small costs, so we should still maintain at budget or below. Our workers' comp liability and liability claims are well below the targeted amount. Our Transportation and Improvement Safety Fund, again, we have on the left our traffic enforcement fees and our scofflaw fines. So those revenues are, we didn't have anything budgeted for scofflaw, and that's helping drive our traffic enforcement fees for normal red light citations, and so those are above our anticipated revenue. Our expenditure, I'm sorry, those were the expenditures. Our revenues over on the right in total are up. Oh, I said that wrong. Those coming across to total up for the total revenues. Then when we look at our expenditures, our traffic administration, the cost of having the lease on the red light system, that's in the traffic administration. And then our scofflaw admin fees, we we'll be having a payment due soon to those. State of Texas, the amount that we remit is not till year end, so we won't see that until the last month. Our traffic, street, and signal maintenance and our transfers out all are within budget, or close to budget. And with that, I will open up, entertain any questions that anyone might have.
Wait a minute, Councilman Harvey?
Okay.
Richard, thank you for that presentation. In the general fund, do we still project to have a fund balance at the end of the fiscal year sufficient enough to transfer circa $2.4 million into the innovations fund should it be approved?
At this point in time, yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Richard, that on the scofflaw, the amount of revenue we've collected was a figure I couldn't read, and I'm sure other people couldn't either. Would you just share with everybody that that's very nice to have that added to our revenues?
Yes, I'm reading that we're a little over the 400,000, getting close. That would be the next line, I believe, is 600,000 on that graph, and so we're probably about 550 or 60,000, I believe, on the scofflaw revenues at this point in time.
Richard, year-to-date collections, I believe, in your presentation is 1.1 million.
That would be
the budget, I believe.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. 545,000. Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, 545,000, the yellow column would be the exact amount on the page 10 of the financial report.
Okay, anyway, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you. Item number 11 is the citizen input, and I would remind the citizens that you have 2 minutes to come up and give your comments. The council cannot, because it's not a scheduled agenda item, make a comment or answer a question. And when you come up, as your name is called, will you please give your name and address to the secretary? Dave Galbraith.
Dave Galbraith, 203 Brookwood Drive, Duncanville. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just a few remarks about understanding each other, the citizens to the council and vice versa. It would be helpful to us citizens if each council member would briefly explain why they vote for or against each agenda item. Maybe some items would not be appropriate, but for the most part. To better understand what you're saying to us, we citizens need to do our homework by doing several things. Reading the online council agenda packets. Tonight's package has 311 pages. Reading 4B board guidelines and funding application form. Reading the City Home Rule Charter, that's 66 pages. Reading other documents pertinent to our deciding how we would like our council members to vote on various issues. Now, we could talk about a number of other things there, but we need to do a little research of our own in order to communicate, use the same language that you're using. At the April the 1st council meeting, my comments emphasized 3 things: leadership, vision, and communications. Regarding communications, let's talk to each other in simple terms so you understand the citizens' needs and expectations, and the citizens can honestly say they understand your votes and comments about the issues. None of us need to be confused next May when it comes time to vote again. Let's try to avoid the game of gotcha between citizens and council and between council members. We can learn to communicate in a few simple words that most people understand. We must respect each other. We desperately need calm, patient leadership and statesmen who communicate effectively. Do we agree on that? Please confirm that you do understand this as you deliberate. Communications is the most difficult thing we do. When we think we've spoken clearly, we find that someone understood us differently, to their dismay and ours. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. J.M. Chastain.
J.M. Chastain, 1215 Statler Drive, 43-year property resident here of Duncanville. Just some observations on the budget. First, I'd like to compliment the financial staff for the document. It's really comprehensive, and I know it took a lot of time to do it. I've got just 3 or 4 comments. One of them has to do with apparently the deviation from the standard protocol that this council has done before as a pay-as-you-go. I'm very concerned about the innovation fund of transferring the overfunded balances of $2,298,920 on September the 30th to this innovation fund. Personally, I would call this a slush fund because it doesn't have any defined purchases or expenditures as you do from these fund balances, because these funds are set up for specific purposes. That's one thing I'm concerned about. The other thing I'm concerned about is we continue to transfer $520,000 to the Duncanville Sports Facility. And I would, as a suggestion, I would like to see the recap on a monthly basis and on a year-to-date basis when the recap is done on the sports facility as to what has been your revenue and your expenses and then whether or not you're making a profit and loss, because it is a little bit misleading when you're taking and adding $525,000 from the general fund balance to what the actual is. To me, that's not real straightforward. And unfortunately, I think this, while it started out to be an excellent asset of the city, it has turned into just a money pit. And then I wish you'd put a sharp pencil to the budget again, because there's too much fluff in it, especially with these special studies that you all want to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Russell Dotson.
Russell Dotson, 1503 Sharon Drive. Tonight's agenda calls for us to deliberate the budget or to approve a budget. And we've had several meetings in preparation for this, and we've had the citizens' input. My hope is that you will consider, number one, all the citizens' input, even down to things like the request to reconsider the new logo, the new branding for the field house. But more importantly, that you will consider each item on the budget and exercise the courage to make any adjustments necessary, even at this moment, to give us the best budget for the financial future of our city. And then following whatever is adopted, to hold yourself accountable to honor it. It is my understanding that after this budget is enacted, that we will have 73 days of surplus available to us to protect us after this budget is enacted. So I'm hoping that we will honor those numbers and protect those numbers, pay off debt, and not work in such a way that we take on more debt. I am a little confused on the agenda tonight, though, when it says item 19 is to approve and adopt a budget, and item 22 says we're going to ratify the budget. In order that we will require raising more revenue from property taxes than previous years, I'm concerned that we're going to approve and ratify on the same night. Maybe the language is escaping me, but it looks like it's two things there. The city manager in the budget packet indicated that transparency was a goal for this budget, and it's needed for trust. Several of us want reconciliation and harmony in our city. For that to happen, there must be trustworthiness. And so I ask you to keep the line item in the packet so we can access it as the year unfolds and make sure that we hold everyone accountable for the budget we approve tonight.
Thank you, sir. Wesley Jameson.
Good evening. Wesley Jameson, 1214 Lady Lane. My first subject was to talk about the I-20 service roads, but after hearing the letter from our 22-year state representative, who, of course, was elected in 1992 with over 65% of the vote after defeating Glenn Repp, I think this misinformation, misinterpretation, and maligning issue is a serious one here. Apparently there's a driving force perpetuating this cause with false statements. We had a presentation last City Council meeting that discussed the hazmat accident that, of course, has been disproven so many times it's a joke. In fact, the crowd laughed. So please, let's get it straight. Let's get correct information. Let's use facts and not fantasies. The last thing I want to talk about is this $3.5 million increase in budget. The spending is out of control. I attended every single budget meeting. I listened to every single presentation. I kept waiting for this novel to reach a conclusion that had some sort of control, some sort of self-control in it. But apparently there is none. there's no one with their hand on the switch. The idea that you can free spend as long as you've got the money, and then when you run out, you can always go get more, is, I don't know what economic theory or what school that was taught in, but that doesn't seem to be a very prudent way to manage public funds. The pay-as-you-go plan has been a successful plan. The idea of incurring debt is not a positive one, I don't think, for the future of the city. I think if we had more in this budget to cover the improvements of sidewalks, roads, instead of so much in the innovation fund. I don't know what that economic term is either, never heard that one before. And in conclusion, perhaps if we paid a little less money for the 3 suits in the back to attend the council meeting, might save a little there too.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our public comment period. Oh, I'm sorry, I grabbed 2 cards here. Got one more, Grady Smithy.
Grady Smithy, 1806 Cedar Hill Road, resident of Duncanville since July of 1950. It's always interesting. I came up to talk to you about the budget, but y'all spent so many hours on that. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You ought to have enough sense to know what you're going to do by now, after all those meetings you've had. I'm going to talk about Yvonne Davis's letter. I wasn't going to do that because, you know, normally, Dr. Dodson, since you're my councilman, if I had a letter that had your name in it, I would have called you up and said, you know, what's your take on this? But you didn't do that, so let me give you some information you probably don't have, and you're certainly not going to get from a couple of people here. Number one, this information on things. There really was a spill that took anything, but let's don't go into that. Let's talk about what it really meant. Here's what happened. All right, and, you know, basically, Yvonne Davis spoke to the group that I'm a co-founder of, the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition, Friday week ago. And what happened was she said, I'm a pro-business Democrat. And in that process, I said, well, one of the big problems in the lack of business development in southern Dallas County, all across the cities, was the fact that TxDOT considered us a rural area and didn't feel like they had to give us an opportunity to pay 50% of the service roads. When I got $25 million for us to do service roads, there was more misinformation put out on that particular issue than any issue I believe I ever had anything to do with. But let's get right down to the nut cutting here. What happens, basically, is this. When I talked to Yvonne after the meeting, I said, what do you know? She said, well, I think it's going to take some houses. I said, well, I don't know about that for sure. So I immediately went over to the TxDOT representative there, and I said, Kelly, would you send me a copy of the schematic on this? I want to see whether it's going to take any houses or not, because I know there's a lot of misinformation going around on this subject. And guess what? That's the copy that I got, and that's the copy I sent y'all. And I went back to Yvonne, and I said, see, it's not going to take any houses. I think you and I have both been given some bad information. That's how we got this. But I want to tell you this. We need those service roads for more reasons than one. We're not going to get but half of them, but here's the key point. We all voted for the south side, but we cannot do that because we don't own that road. That road is a national road. And the Federal Highway Administration will not let us build the south side without approving design on the north side and say we're going to build it sometime in the future. And you're absolutely wrong, Ms. Jameson, as you and your husband normally are.
Ms. Jameson. Okay, thank you, sir. The next items will be the consent items, and we have been asked to pull items number 14C and 15C for consideration during our individual consideration. So at this time, I'm going to ask the city secretary to read item number 12C, 13C, 16C, 17C, and 18C, which will be our consent items.
Agenda item 12C is to consider approval of the minutes from the August 26, 2014 special council meeting and the September 2nd, 2014 regular council meeting. Agenda item 13C is to consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving the terms and conditions of the interlocal agreement by and between TML Multi-State Intergovernmental Employee Benefits Pool and the City of Duncanville, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A for services related to health insurance and claims administration, and authorizing the interim city manager to sign the necessary documents. Agenda item 16C is to consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving the terms and conditions of an agreement with Dallas County on behalf of the Health and Human Services Department for the Mosquito Ground Control Spraying Program effective from October 1, 2014 through September 30th, 2015 at a cost of $185 per hour, and authorizing the interim city manager to execute all paperwork and necessary documents. Agenda item 17C is consideration approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving the adoption of the master fee schedule for the fiscal year 2014 through 2015, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A. Consider agenda item 18C is consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving the terms and conditions of Amendment Number 2 to the Dallas County Household Hazardous Waste Interlocal Agreement to coordinate the planning and implementation of a household hazardous waste collection program from October 1, 2014 through September 30th, 2015 for a cost not to exceed $60,847 and authorizing the interim city manager to execute all paperwork and necessary documents.
City Council, you've heard the captions read. Is there a motion concerning these consent items?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Please vote. Vote is 7-0, unanimous. Okay, going into our individual considerations, we will drop back now and pick up the two consent items that were pulled from the agenda to be discussed at this time. Item number 14C is to consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, authorizing the procurement and installation of a voice-over Internet Protocol, VoLP, telecommunications and network system with CDW Government, LLC, through a State of Texas cooperative in the expenditure amount of $340,041.92 and authorizing the interim city manager to execute the necessary documents. Is there a motion concerning this?
I make a motion that we approve the purchase.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Councilman Jameson. Pardon me. Cut your mic on. Mike.
I am going to vote against this because I did hear from my district, and they suggested that other telephone systems or some of the suggestions that were made by a telephone expert that was here and spoke, that those be looked into, and they do not want this expenditure.
Councilmember Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Here's why I'm for this. There's nothing that mankind has manufactured that does not at some point need to be replaced. Case in point. Several years ago, I bought a car from American Motors Corporation called a Vision. It was a very nice car at the time. It was in the early 90s. And I saw a number of those cars driving around in Duncanville. That car is no longer manufactured. You can't buy spare parts for it. And all the cars that I saw around Duncanville that were manufactured and went by the name of Vision, all of those cars are gone now except for one. It was purple and the paint is faded off of it. But whoever owns it is still driving it around. Several moments ago, you may have noticed that I asked Richard the question, Richard, financially, will we have sufficient resources to transfer $2.4 million to the Innovations Fund? And he said yes. Here's where this is going. It's called Municipal Finance 101. And that is, you can use one-time revenue to do one-time expenditures. That's a time-honored tradition in this profession. And that is from someone who has spent his career doing that very sort of thing. I balanced municipal budgets for 30 years. I know how it's done. This is a prudent use of the money. It's been clearly stated that the phone system that we have is out of date. You cannot buy the parts for it. You cannot buy telephones for it except from eBay and Amazon. And as far as all the other solutions are concerned, voice over IP is good enough for Dallas, it's good enough for Houston, it's good enough for Austin, it's good enough for Round Rock, it's good enough for McKinney, it's even good enough for Seagoville. So it ought to be good enough for Duncanville. We have the resources to do it. It's a one-time expenditure, and there is no logical reason why we shouldn't do it. And that's why I'm for it.
Boyd, which one was first? Councilman Boyd? Go ahead.
No, I would just, in response to Mr. Galbraith, I will make comments as to why I probably was the most difficult in the budget process in reviewing that, because I think one of the biggest mistakes we made is we're calling it a phone system. And what we're spending that money on is far more than a phone system. It's our infrastructure of all of our data systems as well. And that is what you can't allow to fall down, because when that falls down, you lose your 911. You lose a lot of the activity that y'all all depend on. I work in that industry from a finance point of view. I too had a call from my district. The one individual that did call me has done this for almost 30 years, and that is his business. And he commended our information technology officer for making the right decision. He queried him quite heavily about why he was doing what he was doing. He also puts these systems in hospitals, and he told me that he was using the same company to do a hospital out in West Texas right now. So he just said, I want you to know that I think that it's the right decision for the city that I live in. He happens to live in District 1, and he called me. And so with that, I do rely on the people in the business and the experts that should know. And so that is my explanation as to why I first was probably the city manager will tell you, I probably questioned it more than anybody. And when I learned it wasn't just a phone system, it changes the whole complexity of why we're doing what we're doing. And so hopefully, Mr. Galbraith, that's a better understanding of why I feel that I seconded that motion, and that's all I have to say.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I intend to vote for this for several reasons. I had a nice visit with the expert that was here last time, and he suggested that we buy a backup system, and we get all of our parts on eBay. And I asked him, I said, where would you even get that? He said, would you buy it from another city when they get rid of theirs? And that might get us down the road a little bit, might save us a little money right now, but I worry that should something happen with 911 or whatever, and we cause somebody to lose their life, it's just not worth it. I feel like we're holding our current system together with binders, twine, baling wire, and a Band-Aid, and I don't think that's what we need to do. I think our citizens deserve a little more than that, and that's the reason I'm going to be voting for this.
Councilmember Rutherford?
I'm also going to vote for it because it's also my understanding that if you read here, it's over 11 years old, it's beyond its service life, you can't get parts for it. I know in my business, I've had a number of computers over the years, and at some point in time, you've just got to move forward with new technology. I use the voice over internet in my office, and that's why I'm going to vote for it.
Councilmember Dodson?
Last Thursday, I met with 9 of the citizens from District 4, and it was a very enlightening meeting for me. I was surprised at the things that they were fine with and the things that gave them heartburn. I was prepared to vote for this, and the 9 unanimously said no. We're not opposed to a new phone system. If they need it, they need it, but it seems like a lot of money for a phone system. And I explained to them that it also included internet and computer systems as well. They still said, we think they should look around a little bit more for a cheaper price. So because of that, I'm representing my citizens and saying no.
Councilmember Jameson?
I would like to point out, it's not that I'm against a phone system or that my constituents are against a phone system. It is simply that there are many different options in between a broken system and this particular system. In fact, the comment was made that this is one of the most expensive ones that is offered. So it's not that I'm against getting a new system, and I don't believe that my fellow taxpayer constituents are. I think that they think that there are other options, and they should be researched further, not just what we got. In fact, we did have fellow John Lockridge from District 4, who that is his business, and he came up here and spoke several times to no avail about different options he thought we should listen to and talk to him about, and nobody was interested in hearing him. So it's not that we don't think that we need a system. We do. I think that they feel like the people that I represent, that they would like to hear more options. And there's a huge price difference. Let's see what we're getting for our money and see what else is available.
Councilmember Harvey?
When we were provided the paperwork in terms of the work that the staff had did to research this particular initiative, there was a schedule that listed several phone companies on that schedule in terms of their quality and their reliability. And Cisco really ranked head and shoulders above all of the other companies that were looked at. So it's more than a matter of price. It's a matter of the value that you get for the investment that you make. And clearly, Cisco was head and shoulders above that. And I did call a coworker of mine who works with another city and has had 13 years of experience working with Cisco equipment. And he told me that in his 13 years, Cisco equipment has never failed. AT&T equipment has failed, but not Cisco. So based on the research that I've done, I'm very impressed that adequate work has been done in researching various companies, and a very good one has been chosen.
Seeing no further lights, there is a motion on the floor, and that motion is to consider approval of a resolution authorizing the procurement and installation of a voice-over internet protocol telecommunications and network system with CDW Government, LLC, in the amount of $340,041.92. So that's the motion on the floor. There is a second. Will you please vote? Thank you. Motion passed 5-2. Item number 15C is to consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, authorizing procurement and installation of a data cabling for voice over internet protocol telecommunications and network system with Network Cabling Services Incorporated through a state of Texas cooperative in the expenditure of amount of $67,492.80 and authorizing the interim city manager to execute the necessary documents. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move for approval.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, I just read the motion. Is everybody clear on the motion? Seeing no discussion, will you please vote? Motion passed 6-1. Thank you. Item number 19 is to consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving and adopting a budget for the city for the fiscal year October 1, 2014 through September 30, 2015, providing that expenditures of said fiscal year shall be made in accordance with the said budget. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move for approval of the budget as presented by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Councilman Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Here again is why I am for this particular budget. As I looked through the budget as was presented, and when I also realized that so much of our community is 30 years old and over, that tells me that there is a lot of infrastructure that we need to assess, that we need to evaluate, which is why when we talk about some of those special studies really serve as a gateway, if you will, for the fact that in the next year or two, we will have capacity to sell debt. But the question is, what do we sell the debt for? Now, in time past, the way that the streets used to be evaluated here in Duncanville, and I got this from a first-hand account, the Director of Public Works and the city engineer and the street superintendent would drive through town, and the Director of Public Works had criteria that if they saw this type of crack or if they saw that type of crack, then the street is probably X years old. So I use that as an example because the street survey is a very sophisticated and scientific way of truly knowing what the conditions of our streets are. Like my fellow Councilman Cliff Boyd said, we don't know what we don't know what we don't know. So we have to look at and consider our water and sewer infrastructure. We have to consider our streets. One of the things that came across in this budget presentation was a comprehensive analysis of our parks, in which we learned we have 2 parks that have serious need of being addressed. That's the same type of analysis that we need on our streets, our water and sewer infrastructure, as well as our facilities. We need to take a comprehensive, complete analysis of where we are and budget accordingly. And so this budget, in my opinion, really doesn't break a lot of new ground. Basically, what this budget does in a lot of areas is just to begin to address some of the maintenance issues that we have in the assets that the community has entrusted to us. Now, let me share something with you. A private business, when it has sufficient financial reserves, either does one of three things. They either return some of that to the shareholders in terms of a dividend, they give an increase to their employees, or they reinvest in the company to build capacity, to have more efficient operations so that they can, so that it can show up on their bottom line. And so the point that I'm making is that when you look at what's called the Innovations Fund, I basically look on that as a reinvestment fund. If you look at everything that's proposed in that fund, it's very few things that break new ground. A lot of it is addressing maintenance issues that have been neglected over the past few years. And that's the underbelly of why we find ourselves with these reserves, because things have not been addressed. And I can go on and on. This budget is a start and a step in the right direction. Very well put together from the standpoint of a person that has been doing this for a number of years, very well put together. And really, I guess in a sense, it could be a little intimidating, you know, if you're not used to reading all of those pages. But quite frankly, I found it fascinating, I guess, because that's what I do. And so I was able to flesh out a lot of good things in the budget. And all of these good things are being done by using the reserves that we've accumulated. And it does not increase taxes, but it relies on the rebounding of the assessed valuations throughout the community, and it holds the tax rate at the same. So I am definitely for this budget for those reasons.
Councilman Boyd?
Again, I will, I support the budget as it's been prepared. I have done a few of these, not as many as some of my fellow council members, but it is probably one of the best processes and exercises that we've gone through in determining where we stand and where we should spend the money. Even in our own households, my wife, your husband don't always agree on what the best thing to spend the money on or where to spend it. And so it's not surprising, and it's not disappointing in any way that everybody doesn't fully understand what we understand. But I've had a lot of experience in the public arena, whether it be here or at Parkland or wherever it might be, is that one of the tendencies when you're a tax-supported entity is to defer necessary expenditures and maintenance that are very critical to the life cycle costing. That is something that government tends to not use enough of, to understand that when you spend a dollar, what's the life cycle relationship of that? You can sometimes spend less, and I think the best example was the Pure Later ads of our life. It said, pay me now or pay me later. And I think that's the way I believe this budget is addressing some of these. I think the other thing that I want to address is that I believe that we are obligated to use technology as our friend and not be fearful of it. And I think the best one that I like, and the one I'm most impressed that is now existing, is the ability to do the x-ray examination of the road, because just because something is 70 years old doesn't mean that it can't do a full day's work. And if Mark Cook was here, I'd say, I'll show you, you come work with me every day. There are some things that need to be replaced maybe, but I can still put in a day's worth of work. And I think our roads are the same way. If you had a health issue, and I think you would be very appreciative that before they did surgery, they did an MRI, and they determined if they were right in their assessment, you would definitely want to spend that money before you went ahead and said, yeah, go ahead and do surgery. And I think that's what we're talking about with our roads and our infrastructure. It is a very expensive element of the operation in a city. And so I feel very comfortable that we have vetted those type of options that we have. Again, Mr. Galbraith, I do appreciate your comments. I think we do need to be reminded sometimes that we can speak about in common language why we're for things without we're not an advocate, we're not trying to sell anybody else, but we do owe it to our constituency to explain why. And for the gentleman who addressed the fund as a slush fund, I can understand why people would see that, but what I want to say to all the constituencies is that nothing over $50,000 can be spent unless it comes back here for a vote of the council. So just because it's in the budget, because it is in the innovation fund, nothing, as was discussed tonight about the phone system and anything else, those items that are in there will be addressed if they're over $50,000. And you can come and hear the discussions, and if they're put on consent agendas, the respect of any colleague can pull it off as Councilman Dotson did the proper thing. If his constituency's telling him, then we shouldn't do that. We should discuss it. And so I just want to reassure the constituents that we don't just say, here's $2 million, I hope you do a good job at spending it. It doesn't work that way. And so for that reason, it doesn't concern me that we're spending those monies for those expenditures that in most cases are all one-time expenditures. And so for that reason, I too will be supporting this budget as presented.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, we've in our city for years and years have had a lot of deferred maintenance, and that's a good thing to a point, but it comes a point where you have to do some things to try to take care of things. And I think about our police and firefighters. We made the decision a year ago that we wanted, when a fire truck pulled up in front of your house, we wanted it staffed to where they could go in and start fighting the fire immediately. We didn't want them to have to wait on another truck that might be coming from the other fire department here in town, or maybe from Cedar Hill or DeSoto, since we have interlocal agreements where we work to help each other and they help us. We felt like that was critical, and we felt like that was important. And if we're paying, we need to, it's not that much more to get it done right and do it right, and for the safety of our firefighters and our police officers as well. And there's a young man that's in our police department. I don't want to embarrass him, but Ben Shipman, Ben Shipman Sr., his dad and I coached a Little League baseball team, and my son and Ben's little brother were on it, and Ben was a high school athlete, and he came out there and helped us. And I think about, and because I know him, but even if I didn't, I say this about all of our firefighters and our police officers. I want them to have the best training possible. I want them to have the best equipment. And God forbid that I'd ever have to go to Ben Sr. and say, listen, it's, the reason you're burying your son is because we had to save a little money, on that right there. And if we're going to pay, when 49% of your police department leave and 51% of your fire department or vice versa leave in the first 5 years because you're not paying them what they get in other cities, doesn't it make sense to pay a little more to get them to stay here? I mean, we all know that in every job, you learn a little bit in training, but you really learn an awful lot. Probably the things that, probably many of our police officers and firefighters could tell you, That's a wonder that they live through some circumstances, but they learn from those. And you need those kind of guys that have been through that to help train the younger guys. And that's what we're losing. We've got a lot of guys at the top, we've got a lot of guys at the bottom coming in, but it's a revolving door. And if we're going to pay, the training is very, very expensive, and we want our guys to have the best training, but we're training them for somebody else, and that just doesn't make sense. So in my way of thinking, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I think we've put off on our roads and other things way too long. We've got things that are not safe in many of our parks. We don't want any of our children or citizens to be hurt. I think we have to look at those kind of things. And I think we made the right decision to try to staff at a level that was, in the best interest of all of our citizens last year. And I think that was the right thing to do. And I think we need to follow through with that. And I do think when you've got roads, because every one of us know on the roads you drive all the time where the potholes are and how to dodge them. And it doesn't make sense to do that all the time when we can make sure that we assess those roads and we know that we've got sewer lines and water lines and everything else all over town that are 50-plus years old. And those things don't last forever. And so we're going to have to do some things, preventative-wise, so that it doesn't cost us more in the long run. Budgets are always tough, but I think that we're doing the right thing on this one, and those are the reasons I'm going to be voting for it.
Councilmember Rutherford.
Well, this is my first go-through with this budget. It was very, I'd like to commend the city staff for making it so detailed. I've learned quite a bit about the city and its operations and going through the budget and then through a couple of days that Dr. Dotson and I had with the city staff. But one of the reason I'm going to vote for the budget is I see a lot of the things in here that we're voting for, I just see them as being positive for the city of Duncanville. I mean, some of the stuff in the Innovation Fund, I see that we've delayed, just like everybody else is saying, we've delayed some stuff. I see there's some stuff in there for the kids in the parks, the lightning thing. I think that's, I've heard some people speak against that, but I think that's something we need. I've had kids that have played sports before, and I know that lightning detection thing has been in all those parks so that if there is lightning in the area, we can get the kids off the fields. I think that's important. I also, Cliff kind of stole my thunder on the $50,000 thing. I was a little bit concerned with that early on, but like Cliff said, if it's over $50,000, we've got to vote on it again. So that's why I'm going to vote. I think it's positive for Duncanville.
Councilmember Jameson.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Summerlin for his presentation and getting the budget together. What people need to understand is that each department submits their wish list, so to speak, what they want, and he puts it together. This isn't his spending. He puts it together and presents it to the council. So I think you did a very good job, and your presentation was very good. It's almost amusing to hear some of the same people who attacked the previous council for the prudent spending and the policies that were in place. You wouldn't have this money to run through that's here now. And I guess the major response I heard from citizens was that when you talk about deferred maintenance, we're not spending enough on maintenance. We're spending it on studies, and they're talking about the lightning prediction system, $66,000. That's, I wouldn't say a necessity. You've got to have lightning first, and second, something's got to be going on, and it's just not a necessary expenditure when you do have a lot of deferred projects and maintenance that have not happened. We do have old pipes in the city, streets that need to be resurfaced and redone, sidewalks. We have neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks, curbs, streets. you know, there's a lot of it. I think the money should have gone more to maintenance and to updating the city, sprucing it up. I've heard a lot of people, I got comments, a lot of people feel like the city looks ratty, that we should be making it look better, more presentable. It's just a different way to spend the money. And I heard someone say, and I agree, that we don't all agree on the way that money should be spent. And I think that's what I heard from my constituents, my fellow taxpayers. And studying the road, they're talking about knowing in advance. That's another study, an $80,000 study. I think what I heard from people was they wanted the roads fixed. They want the sidewalks fixed. They don't want to study it. They don't want a $250,000 study. They don't like these studies. They want the money actually spent on things for the city, like the streets, the sidewalks, the water lines. We have water lines that break all the time that most of us don't know about. There are issues all over the city, and I think that's what I heard was that they wanted to see more of that. The pay-as-you-go, they heard that, and I really got a strong response from that most people feel very strongly that they want to pay as they go. They don't want to incur more and more debt, and they want to be able to have nicer things. The Armstrong Park needs to be replaced, the playground equipment. We can't do that yet. But we're spending enough money on other things, we could have replaced it. So there's other things that we could spend the money on, and I guess from and I was surprised that a lot of people read the material online or watched the meetings and had responses to it. So I guess we have to have this budget in by October 1st, and unfortunately, there isn't a lot of being able to obviously give and take or change it, because it is what it is. And so I will honor what I've heard from my constituents and taxpayers, and they aren't pleased with the way we spent.
Councilmember Dotson.
Going back to my meeting with the citizens last Thursday, there were 5 things that they were not in favor of. The phone system, the road study, the salary study. They thought that we had been very generous with our increase in pay and benefits package, so why study it? They were not in favor of buying a cement mixer, and the LED sign for in front of the library was a concern. They weren't against the LED sign. They were against its location. Many of my citizens from Hollywood Park said we never drive to that area, we would never see the sign. And they thought that if it was on the corner of Cocker Hill and Wheatland or on 67 and Main, preferably, then they were okay with the sign. So they were more upset with its location. So I'm prepared to approve the budget if we could remove these 4 items for individual voting. That's where I stand.
Okay. This is a good budget. Staff started working on it last December. We've been working on it practically all summer long. It's a lengthy document. And if I were wanting to go back and pull hundreds of thousands of dollars out of this budget, I can do it. But then we're going to be in the same shape we've been in for the past several years. We're just deferring things that need to be taken care of in Duncanville if we're going to move forward. Now, I drive the parks. Oh, they look great. But when you get out and you start walking the parks, you see what we need, then that's the time that we need to start thinking about how are we going to change things. These items that are in this budget that went into the special fund that we're setting, the innovative fund that we're setting aside, they're all going to be funded. They're one-time expenditures, and they will not impact the general revenue budget next year. Now, I hear talk about, well, we want to do pay-as-you-go. Well, that's to be debated. That's not in this budget. What was said early on was that our general fund indebtedness will be paid off in August of next year. That would give us the capability of changing the way we do business with the pay-as-you-go and issuing revenue bonds. That's a whole different process that this council and those that are elected this spring are going to have to look at. So that's really not on the table. What we're doing right now is trying to put together a budget using some excess funds that we have to be able to go ahead and do some of the things that we need to do to make this community attractive enough to bring in those young folks. We talk about bicycle trails. I don't know of a city around here that are not studying bicycle trails right now. Now, you say we don't need a study to do that. I'm not qualified, and I don't know how many up here are qualified to map out where the bike trails ought to go. So let's bring in some people who do this kind of work. Let them give us a study on what we need to do, and then we can consider and move forward with it. So that's what these studies are all about. So I'm in favor of the budget. I think there's been a lot of staff work and a lot of council work done on it. Are we all going to agree on it? No. Are the citizens all going to be happy about it? No. You know, taking Dr. Dotson's, I can understand where the people in District 4 would rather have the monument sign, the electronic sign, put more toward where they would view it on a daily basis. Well, this is not going to help the people over in District 5 too much or the people in District 1 too much. This location is the center of Duncanville. It's where the City Hall is and the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other things that are right in the center of town. Yes, there's not a really good place that you could put the sign that would be viewable to all people, because all people don't go to every corner of the community. So I'm really in favor of keeping the sign where it's suggested, but I understand the folks over in District 4. But then there are 4 other districts that we've got to consider too, and I understand where you're coming from, Dr. Dodson. I do. So I think it's a good budget. It's a step forward. It's a step that will make our city move forward. We're going to use this as a springboard to say, look at Duncanville, and not just close your eyes like I've been doing. Boy, all those flowers in the park are sure pretty. Grass sure is cut nice, but there's more there than that. There is deficiencies in the athletic fields, and if we're going to have baseball leagues and soccer leagues and things like that, we need to make sure that the fields are in good enough condition that somebody's not going to get hurt playing on them. So I think it's a good budget, and I will be voting for it. Are there any more lights? Okay, Ms. Jameson.
I just failed to say a while ago, someone mentioned that that people didn't understand. Well, I feel very fortunate in my district that I have a lot of accountants, I have attorneys, I have people who have studied budgets for entities that are supported by tax dollars. They do understand. In fact, I'm grateful, I'm surprised that they take the time to read it, and they've watched these programs, these budget programs, and that they respond. And I'm grateful, because it's absolutely true that we don't know everything, and you try to do the best you can. And so I'm grateful to have the people that will tell me their thoughts and their direction. But it's not true that people out there don't understand. They don't get it. They get it.
Councilman.
Just real quick, because I know we've kind of gone over this and belabored the point. In my career, you know, I've not only worked with local governments, but I've also worked with savings and loans, and I've also worked with a chemical manufacturer. And I certainly don't intend to imply that people just don't get it. The fact of the matter is that I've worked in all three of those entities, and the accounting for them is very different, and the business model for them is very different. As a matter of fact, there's a difference between municipal accounting, state accounting, and federal government accounting. All three of those are different. They're not the same. And so I realized that this particular budget took a different approach, and it was a very comprehensive presentation, a lot of pages. And so what I wanted to do was to just assure people on the basis of my experience in doing this, that this is a good budget, and I still believe that.
Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no further lights, Richard, one of these items has very specific language that we must cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Which one is that?
That will be the next agenda item 20, and I have a slide that'll have that language in it.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So item number 19 is to consider approval of the ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving and adopting a budget for the city for the fiscal year October 1, 2014 through September 30, 2015, providing that expenditures for said fiscal year shall be made in accordance with said budget. That's the motion that's on the floor. It's been seconded. It's been discussed, so will you please vote? Okay, 5-2, the budget passed. Okay, item number 20 is to consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, levying ad valorem taxes for the year 2015 at the rate of .758447 per $100 assessed valuation on all taxable property within the corporate limits of the city as of January 1, 2014, to provide revenues for current expenditures and interest and sinking fund requirements, providing for due and delinquent taxes, delinquent dates together with penalties and interest. Richard?
Okay, as I noted a minute ago, there's very specific language in the Truth in Taxation that requires the motion to be made, and I've basically written out that motion up here so that when you're prepared to make that motion, you can just use this as the wording.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're on item 20. Is there a motion just like this one?
I move that the property tax rate for fiscal year 2015, effective on property valuations as of January 1, 2014, be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.758447.100 in valuation, which is effectively a 4.93% increase in the tax rate.
You do realize that that's the same tax rate that we had last year, but because of the increased revenue, it will produce a little bit more money. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, will you please?
I want to say something.
Okay, Councilman.
Yes, I just want to make sure that, that citizens understand what they're saying is that it is the same tax rate as they had last year. It did not increase the rate. What's increasing is the assessed value on some of the homes. And so that would mean that your taxes would increase, but the rate did not. I mean, what we're voting on, it is not increasing.
Well stated. Okay, seeing no further lights, will you please vote? Okay, pass 7-0. Okay, item number 21 is consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving and adopting the City of Duncanville financial policies attached hereto as Exhibit A.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I've highlighted in the background history of your packets the major things that have changed. If you look at Section 2, the Accounting, Auditing, and Financial Reporting, Section D, Auditor Rotation, I revised that to reflect the goal of rotating audit firms every 5 years. Previously, it said that you shall rotate, and there are times, or have been times in the recent past when we've not had very much interest in voting on, bidding on audit services. And we went out for a vote this past year. That was not the case. We had a number of firms, actually a record number of firms, that made proposals. So we changed that so that we have some latitude that if we were ever caught in a situation where we had to continue on for another year or two with the same audit firm, that we could do so. And of course, that would be brought before council and discussed and brought before the audit committee. Section 4, operation budget, Section B, under the balanced budget. I revised that to reflect that there may be times when the 60-day fund balance may have been exceeded, or we may be below. So there may be a time when we have a budget that's not quite balanced because we're trying to either spend down, which is the case this year, spend down that fund balance, or in some cases we may have dropped below due to economic impacts, and we may need to have a budget where we build back up to that 60-day fund balance. So I changed that wording to reflect that. Section 6, revenue management. Section J, utility rates. I revised that to include a utility rate study every 5 years and adoption of the recommended rates for a 5-year period. That gives some financial stability for our budget process so that we know what those rates are where they're going for the next 5 years. Section 6, revenue management, Section K, the cost charged by third-party vendors affecting fees charged to citizens. I added a provision that would be an automatic pass-through for ratepayers. And then in Section X, or 10, debt management, Section F, total debt burden. We deleted this section as those benchmarks against, or benchmarks for issuance of debt. They're no longer applicable. Typically, your firms that issue the bonds will put bond covenants in that have to be met, and they're probably much more restrictive than what we had here. Are there any questions?
Questions, anybody? All right, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Further discussion. Please vote. Pass 7-0. Item number 22, consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, ratifying the budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015 that will require raising more revenue from property taxes than previous years and providing an effective date. Cheryl, well, go ahead and explain it then, Chair.
Okay, well, essentially, the Section 102.007C of the Texas Local Government Code requires a separate vote ratifying the budget because of it raising more revenue from property taxes than in the previous years. And that's because our property valuations have gone up, even though, as was stated, we're not increasing the tax rate, but those tax values have gone up. So therefore, the Truth in Taxation in the Section 102 of the Texas Local Code requires there to be a separate vote to ratify the vote to pass the budget.
Sir. Is there a motion concerning this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Is further discussion? Please vote. Pass 7-0. Item number 23 is to consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 20, Water, Sewer, and Sewer Disposal by amending Article 2, Water Services Charges, Section 20-16, Rates Established, Determination by Meter Readings, Section A1A through E, A2A 1 through 5, A2B 1 through 5, to provide new water rates for the fiscal year 2014-2015 through fiscal year 2019-2020 for residential, multifamily, commercial, school, and municipal customers, and by amending subsection B1 through B4 to provide new water rates for fiscal year 2014-2015 through fiscal year 2019-2020 for commercial and irrigation customers, and by amending subsections E1, E3A, E3B, E4A, E4B, E5A, E5B to provide new water rates for residential, multifamily, commercial, school, and municipal customers.
Okay, just by way of explanation, these rates are included in the master fee schedule, and I'll call on our city attorney, Bob Hager, to explain just a little bit more about rate making and why we have this in a separate ordinance.
Mayor and council, as a result of the process that you've gone through to determine what the appropriate values and the returns on your investment in your water and wastewater system through these revenue funds and through the rate-making process requires you adopt an ordinance. This ordinance accomplishes the requirements of the law with regard to rate-making. I'll be happy.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move we approve.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. I have two lines. Councilmember Jameson.
Richard, the amount that we are transferring from the to the general fund for administration fees in the water utility, why is it going up? Why has it gone up so much?
Well, that was based on the rate study, and I could get Dan Jackson to come up here and probably speak a little bit more to how in the study they arrive at that rate. But there's two elements. There's a franchise fee that is transferred to the general fund. Those would be revenues the general fund would get if there were a separate utility company. They would pay those franchise fees to operate in the city. So it's a sort of an internal payment, if you will. And then the other part of that, of course, is to cover general fund expenditures, general fund work for those of us who work on the budget, work in accounting, et cetera, that it's our time and our value and other resources that are expended towards the water, wastewater rates. And be glad if Dan has anything he wants to add to that.
No, I think you summarized it real well.
Well, I thank you for telling us what it's for, but I am just looking here in that from the 2012-13 was $1,500,000, and it's gone up to 14-15 to $1,541,211.
That sounds
So-
about right.
$500,000 for administration fees and franchise fees?
Well, once again, the analysis or the cost allocation study is only done once every 5 years. And so the last allocation study was done back in 2009. And what happens typically is that you use the same percentages for a 5-year period, and you find that those percentages get out of date. And what we found out as a result of the last study was that the general fund was actually under-collecting a little bit for the services that it provided, the water and sewer fund, and so that a slightly accelerated pace had to be implemented to assure that the water fund was properly compensating the general fund. But I think it's not uncommon that in the first year or two after a cost allocation study is done like that the increases are going to be a little bit more, because a lot of times the allocations sort of fall behind the curve and you need to catch up a little bit.
Well, give me an idea what franchise fee, how much would that be?
Isn't it 5%, which is standard to what we get from gas, electric?
Typically, that's standard, and I believe the franchise fee we are charging is a little bit less than that. I believe, if my memory serves me correct, it's about 3%.
We've got it also budgeted to go down in 2015-16. Not much. Like $20,000.
I'm sorry, what to go down?
The transfer to general fund for these fees, the general fund administration fee, or the franchise fee. So why would it go down?
Well, I base it on a formula that's based on how much money we're expending out of that. And so to some degree, the amount that you transfer to capital improvement projects can cause that transfer to fluctuate a bit. Because obviously, if we're not doing as much capital improvement projects, we're not going to have as much to transfer, to cover.
But, so capital improvement projects, they're coming out of here for the administration fee?
No, I'm saying that they're a part of the entire budget. And so if your capital improvement projects are a little bit less from one year to the other, or fluctuate, that will cause because you're using a percentage of how much work you're doing.
Okay. It doesn't.
Well, the more work you do, the less.
It is. I understand that, but this is administration fees. This is not the labor.
Right, capital projects have to be administered.
Right.
And so when capital projects increase, the amount of time and effort involved that is funded through the general fund goes up. And then when the capital projects go down, it goes down as well. And it's very typical for a city to fluctuate its capital projects on a year-by-year basis, because it just depends on the need.
I guess $500,000 from 2012-13 to the 2014-15 budget. It was $535,000, like $761. That's a lot of administration fees.
I think the primary reason why you see the increase again is that in the prior years the fund was under collecting, and this was a way of catching it up. And so the general fund was not being properly compensated for the effort it was giving to the water and sewer fund back in 2011, 2012. And that was one of the findings of the study, that it had to be accelerated a little bit in order to ensure that the general fund was made whole.
Well, I don't know. It looks like a lot. It went up a third.
Yeah. I understand.
Wow.
Councilman Boyd.
I guess that the thing is that I understand, because we're in a major catch-up mode in all aspects, is why we're experiencing these situations. And to me, this is just another example that when you talk about pay-as-you-go, we didn't pay as we went. So we've been talking about we were in a pay-as-you-go method. I don't understand that. If every year the city of Dallas is raising our cost of water and we're not raising our rates, then that's just the other side of not paying as you go.
Right.
And so as a result, that's why we are where we are today, having to face the deficiencies that are in front of us because, again, Mr. Galbraith talking about explanation, this fund is a standalone fund. This is a fund that runs off of the revenue, and if you don't take the revenue in and your expenses are going up for administration and other reasons, then when you do have catch-up, they're all going to go up.
Right.
So my whole point is this is one of the risks that you run when you don't properly pay as you go, even you don't raise even adequately to stay, you actually lose ground. You're not even holding ground. And so I think that people need to understand that it's not, again, building a fund up with a lot of money. This money that's being taken in these next years is a catch-up of funds that we should have been collecting over the last 6 or 7 years. And I think that they deserve that understanding. So, it's a painful thing that we do, but it's a necessity if we're going to ensure that when you turn on your tap, you got water and you got quality water that you can depend on.
Yes.
So, I think that's an explanation that are owed to the people, but we had that in our hearings and in our items before. We tried to explain that, but just to remind everybody that we're just catching up. We're not trying to get ahead or accelerate or build up a big deposit or reserve.
Right. And I think that's a very good point. And I just want to expand upon it very briefly by saying that between the years 2007 and 2013, the city of Duncanville did not increase its water and sewer rates. During that same time period, Dallas Water Utilities, who you buy all your water from, increased their rates by 30%. Trinity River Authority, who you send all your wastewater to be processed, raised their rates by 30 to 40%. So you see, if you don't raise rates, that costs are still going to go up. And so what happens in a utility is that when it tries to keep its rates down, it ends up spending less money on other services because you start prioritizing what expenses you're going to incur. And that's why in 2013 you got to the point where you had to adopt another long-term rate plan that called for modest annual increases, because while you were not increasing your rates, your costs were still going up, and you got to the point where you needed to start catching up again. And you were not able to fund all the projects that you wanted to fund. You were not able to complete a pay-as-you-go system because the revenue wasn't there. Under the plan that you're considering tonight, the revenue will be there. Your rates right now are $10 below the state average. Under the plan that you're contemplating tonight, the rates will continue to be at or about the state average for the next several years. Because while you will be increasing your rates, everybody else will be too. So I think it is a plan that's in the best interest of the city, and it will enable you to maintain all of the goals that you have set for your water and sewer utility.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Jackson, I hate to belabor this point, but nobody wants to pass on water rate increases and wastewater rate increases, those kind of things. Everybody hates to do that, but even though we've had these rate increases, we're still not charging what the city of Dallas is charging us. We're still kind of behind the 8 ball. We're going to be playing catch up. And if you could, would you just take a minute or two and briefly explain the facility improvements that the Trinity River has had and that the city of Dallas has had that we're having to help pay for? And that's one of the reasons. That's one of the main reasons we're having to have these things. I mean, I remember, whenever they put in the new sewer system or whatever, it was, I think you said 40, 50 million or something like that.
Right.
And that serves. I'll let you talk about the cities it serves and that kind of.
Yeah, I want to talk about Trinity River Authority first because that's the most important one. Trinity River Authority processes all of the wastewater that is produced by the city of Duncanville. They have major treatment plants where all the sewage goes. These treatment plants have to meet national environmental standards. The Environmental Protection Agency sets forth a series of guidelines that you have to meet. In other words, the sewage that goes into the plant is processed to the point where it is so pure, when it comes out, you can literally drink the water that comes out of the plant. Now, I've never tested that theory, but that's what they say at least is the case.
No desire to either.
Now, what that means, though, is that it costs a lot of money to fulfill these environmental regulations. The EPA doesn't pay for any of it. You have to pay for it. And the Trinity River Authority has to pay for it. So they are in the process of doing all of these capital improvements to their facilities, and at the same time, they're in the process of doing a significant series of rate increases. They're going to increase their rates by 15% in 2014, 20% in 2015, and then 7.5% for each of the next 3 years after that. That is the price that a society pays for environmental purity. And so as a result, that cost has to be borne by the ultimate users of the system, and that is the ratepayers of the city of Duncanville and other cities. And so that's why the TRA increases are going up. As far as Dallas Water Utilities is concerned, I may need a little help on this because I can't recall right off the top of my head what the specific capital improvements they were looking at. The good news is their increases have been a little more modest than Trinity River's has been. Richard, can you help me out here?
Well, you know, I don't know that I can speak too terribly well to capital improvements for Dallas. Obviously, they have to continue doing that, but simply their costs have been increasing over the years at somewhere around an average of about 5% per year, and those don't seem to slow down. They have been looking at their depreciation in their accounting department. They've been amortizing or depreciating assets over a longer useful life than they really will last. And so they've accelerated some of their depreciation expense so that it's a straight line method of depreciation, but instead of doing some things for 100 years, they're putting that at 75 years. Some things that maybe had been at 50 years, they're lowering that to 30 years. And so that's helped to increase their costs.
And one other thing, if y'all could, I know these are enterprise funds, and they're really supposed to be separate and pay for themselves.
Right.
And we haven't really done that, so could you just kind of elaborate on that a little bit, if you would?
Yes. The Water and Sewer Fund is considered to be what is known as an enterprise fund. It is separate from the general fund. The idea behind an enterprise fund is that the revenues you get from selling the service in the enterprise fund, in this case, water and sewer service, these revenues are supposed to cover all of the costs of providing that service. In other words, you run an enterprise fund like you run a business. You want the revenues from your customer to cover all of your costs. That is the way the city of Duncanville has structured its water and sewer fund, and it is very common. One thing to keep in mind about an enterprise fund, however, it is a nonprofit fund. All you are doing is asking your ratepayers to pay what it is costing you to provide that service. There's no profit, there's no dividends, there's no stock options, nothing like that. It's just straight covering your costs. I think it's a very innovative way of making a governmentally run system operate and adhere to the principles of a private business. You want your revenues to cover your costs. And one final thing I just would like to mention. I know it's easy to complain about Dallas Water Utilities and TRA about their cost increases, but I can guarantee you that if the day ever came that the city of Duncanville decided that they didn't want to be served by Dallas and TRA and they wanted to build their own wastewater plant and build their own water plant, I can guarantee you that your costs would more than double. Because water utilities run on a concept called economies of scale. The more people you provide service to, the less it costs to provide that service to. Dallas Water Utilities provides service not only to the million residents of the city of Dallas, but also to 15 to 20 cities that surround Dallas. And so all of you being serviced together in that one regional plant is much less expensive than if Duncanville and other cities tried to build their own plant. So as difficult as it is to accept the fact that rates are going up for these reasons, Your rates are significantly lower today than they would be if cities like yourselves were forced to build their own treatment facilities.
And that's 32 customer cities Dallas
32.
has. Yes.
Councilmember Boyd.
I want to also emphasize that when I came on the council last year, one of my concerns was that we are a landlocked city. We're 12 square miles. We're not going anywhere in size or extra water or sewer. And I was very concerned that the cities that are also in this 30-something cities are involved. We had a meeting with the TRA for that very purpose, to challenge them that we would not be paying for some of the cities like Cedar Hill, who has a lot of land, DeSoto. They all have a lot of land to develop, which means they got extensions and more sewer and more water. And they were convincing, Councilman Harvey attended that meeting as well. I think they very clearly showed us that we're not paying for other people's expansion. So we're going to be paying for updating and currency and EPA. We have to pay our share of that. But capacity, we're not paying any additional money. And I want, again, the communication to the citizens know that we're not paying for the growth of the cities that are in that fund. And that was very important. So I feel that that part of it we have, and we'll continue to monitor that, because Richard sits as a member of that board, and we'll know if any of that stuff is going on. Hawkeye Richard, okay?
Seeing no further lights, item 23 has been, a motion's been made and seconded. So at this time, if there are no further questions, please vote. Thank you very much, 7-0. Item number 24 is to consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, creating classified positions under civil service in the police and fire departments, providing for a pay scale under civil service, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. This is our civil service. We've talked about that. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move for approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing, Ms. Jameson?
This agenda item also includes the park ranger, and I would just like to express, because that's a big concern to a lot of people in my district with the parks, that I hope that the position, they're adding the park ranger to the police department, that the position will be someone who is patrolling the parks and truly taking care of them. Because I heard had a lot of response from my district, and that is of great concern. They don't want to call the policeman to come out there. They want the park ranger or the police to be patrolling the parks. I feel like it's a separate problem. And they were disappointed that, I don't know, I guess that there wasn't a specific park ranger, not a policeman, who would patrol the parks.
Mayor and council, I want to speak to that because I appreciate the level of concern relative to this position, and we have spent some time internally ensuring that the commitments that we've made will be met. As we indicated, Chief Brown is going to be a standing item on all of the monthly park board meetings, so he can go and give an update on that. Both Chief Brown, Assistant Chief Hurd, Parks Director Bart Stevenson have already made an appointment. They're going to ride through the parks, assess what items need to be checked. We have a number of parks throughout the community that will take time to drive from one park to the other. So they're going to work very hard to establish a level of accountability so that we can set appropriate expectations. They're going to set what we're going to track so that the appropriate mechanism in our CAD system can be established to capture the data from an accountability standpoint, so that when Chief Brown goes to the park board meetings, he's presenting facts relative to what it is. So I just want to reiterate, we have heard the concerns, certainly appreciate that, and are working very hard to address those. And in the early part of the first quarter, Bart and Chief Brown will give a presentation as a part of their update and speak to that publicly, so everybody can be assured that we will actually be providing that duty as promised.
Thank you. This is item number 24. There's a motion and a second, so at this time, seeing no further lights, will you please vote? Thank you. Pass 7-0. Item number 25 is to consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving an agreement between the City of Duncanville and the Chamber of Commerce awarding a hotel occupancy tax grant to the Duncanville Chamber of Commerce located at 300 East Wheatland Road in the amount of $38,500 for fiscal year 2015 and authorizing the interim city manager to execute the necessary documents. Richard?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Chamber of Commerce has made an application for $38,500 for the Convention Visitor Information Center. And we have tonight with us Amber Hadley. She is the chairwoman of the Duncanville Chamber of Commerce, and I'll call on her now to come up and make a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, Interim City Manager. First of all, I want to say thank you for your service and your dedication and commitment to our city. I'm here today, this evening, requesting a hotel occupancy tax grant for the amount of $38,500 for the Duncanville Chamber of Commerce to partner with the city acting as Visitor Information Center for Duncanville. A little history about our partnerships. Approximately 7 years ago, the city allocated almost $25,000 to remodel the chamber office to serve as the Duncanville Visitor Center. Approximately 5 years ago, the city, and along with the Duncanville Independent School District and the chamber, partnered with the purchase of a LED sign. The city and DISD both allocated $10,000 each to purchase and for the rights of use for the LED sign. The chamber funded over $19,000 of that partnership. Currently, all three entities are successfully advertising on that sign. 3 years ago, the chamber requested $15,000 for improvements, printing, and other specific needs to continue the visitor center. The city denied the request. 2 years ago, the chamber made the same request, and the city approved $1,500 of the $15,000 requested on a reimbursement basis. The chamber withdrew request as it was not enough to keep the visitor center running at the quality expected of Duncanville. As a result, the chamber had to close the 24/7 open to the public information foyer it provided to just be open during business hours. It did impose problems for visitors visiting our community after hours on the weekends, needing information on hotels, businesses, and restaurants in the area. It also was a little bit of a hindrance on our residents wanting the local magazine and our seniors wanting to pick up a copy of the Senior News because that's their regular stop on weekends. So, during the past 5 years, the chamber continued to serve the community and visitors who have requested information and relocation packets the best we could. We're no longer able to do that because the printed materials have simply run out. The only map that we have right now is the Best Southwest map that does not show the specific details of our city. I also want to reassure the council that you don't have to be a member to come into the chamber. to access our building or information. Most of the visitors and information and requests for relocations that come into the chamber are obviously not chamber members. And we also have community groups that meet in our boardroom on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, that are not chamber members. If they serve and benefit the community as a whole, we will allow those meetings in our chamber offices. In the packet you received that you have there, you'll see a breakdown of the expenses that you will notice that all the items do meet the criteria required for the Convention Centers and Visitor Information Center guidelines. There also includes several bids and a couple of emails that are listed that just give examples of the requests the chamber frequently receives. This does not include the many phone calls and drop-ins that they do receive. Just a little bit, I was previously a travel consultant for 13 years, and our first call to smaller communities that didn't have like huge convention centers, first call to get local information was to the Chamber of Commerce. So that is people's first resource and stop. I believe in this city. I believe our president, Steve Martin, and our board. It takes all entities to be successful in our community. It takes our city, it takes our schools, it takes our chamber, which is our businesses, and our churches to make our city successful. In closing, bottom line, we're requesting a partnership with the city, once again, for the Chamber of Commerce to be the welcome mat, the front door to our city, the City of Champions, Duncanville. Thank you for your time. And Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to ask Steve Martin to come up to help me answer any questions that y'all might have.
Before we start questions, I guess we need a motion.
I move we approve this.
Second.
Motion second, okay. Council? Councilman Boyd?
I guess one of the things that I would request as a primary source for our documents and our maps and so forth, I would like to see the paraphernalia. I guess I'm gonna call them a mini welcome center. I think especially our hotels, I would like for our program to include certain paraphernalia. I don't care about deciding which you put there, but I would think it's very appropriate and prudent that we purchase this material, that we would put it in the hotels, and I would even suggest in the theater, our community theater, and into the cultural museum. I think those all reach different audiences of people that may be here for other reasons. So if we're going to prepare the material, again, it's kind of like the volume purchasing of water and sewer. We need to not have several people wanting to do the same thing. And so I would ask that this partnership would include an assurance to us that there will be proper distribution to those appropriate facilities, especially the hotels, the theater, and the museum.
Councilman Boyd, to address that, we've already had talks with our hotels, and the publications and the community profile and magazine that we have will be distributed not only to the hotels, it'll also be distributed to the Museum of Cultures and our Music Museum as it opens too. Plus, we'll have some items in the Senior Center, D.L. Hopkins Jr., because they have requests there, and sometimes seniors make one location stop. They don't want to get out and make another stop, so we'll make it available for everybody.
Okay, Councilman Dotson?
All right. Last time we were talking about the International Museum, I thought they said that you couldn't use hotel motel money for improvements. It had to be something bringing people to the city. We're talking about helping them with their irrigation system, and they said, no, we couldn't use money for that.
You can't use money for that for museum purposes, but for the hotel visitor center or for the visitor center, you can use the money for what I call hard costs for improvements, if you can show that those improvements are going to promote tourism and the hotel motel business. So it's a different category, it has different requirements.
Okay.
Councilwoman Jameson.
I have a couple of questions. It says that your regular time is 7 to 4, Monday through Friday?
No,
No? When's your regular time?
8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and 9 to 3 on Fridays. Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, Fridays, 9 to 3. But if we get this, we will convert the foyer to look just like our cabinets and all inside. We'll repaint, add new lighting. We'll actually revamp that for a 24/7, 365 days a year. And also
Where's
with
that written? That's better.
Well, I don't know that we specifically written it out, but that's what we're doing. And I think if you look on the other piece that you were given, it spells it out about refurbished for is a 24/7.
I got that. I was looking for your hours, because I think for a visitor center, you have to be open, because people are going to come not during business hours. They're going to come when they're on vacation or passing through, or.
That's the 24/7?
Yeah. And so, but it's not written here anywhere. Third page? I didn't see it. Okay, so it's going to be 24/7, okay?
Yeah.
And the other thing was the Duncan Switch. Head up Duncan Switch. Are you receiving money from Duncan Switch?
We're bringing in money from the vendor apps, but we're paying police officer, we're paying for the park or the area to be clean, we're paying for the porta cans. That is not paid for by the city. And at some point in time, we now have a 6-month agreement with the city, and we're going to sit down and revisit it, the funds, and we possibly could share funds with the city for the streets, the cones and the barricades, things such as that. The Duncan Switch Street Market will never make anybody rich. It will never make any true kind of money. Just because of the fact that there's not enough money in it to do that. Justify the time that we have, like today, Monica, my assistant, is in the Leadership Southwest class. She's be out all day tomorrow. I had a lot of things for her to do. I was there until 6 o'clock tonight finishing up the work, because we took in vendors a lot this afternoon. We took in 13 vendors today. So it takes time for that. But it's not a money-making project. But we do bring money in.
I guess I'm kind of curious, why didn't this come before the council if we have a contract with them for 6 months?
It's a special use permit.
It's the special events permit.
Oh,
It's not a contract, excuse me, my bad for the word. It's just a special events permit, and we're gonna revisit it in 6 months, and we'll look at all the procedures and see if we're gonna twist and tweak and fine tune it. It's been a tremendous, tremendous asset. City has been very gracious in working with us. To the point when it first started out as an individual group of individuals doing it, the First Baptist Church had to sign a special use permit, which involves the identification page, identifying the city of any problems, any accidents, things such as that. The next couple of weeks, I went to the board and I talked to the board about it. We were going to help, and we wasn't sure at the time that the chamber was going to take it on as an operating fund. But to the point, in working with the city, and Tim Hamilton's our liaison with staff and all, he came back, we had to have someone that was going to take ownership of it, someone that would sign and carry the proper liability insurance, And we were able to secure that through ours insurance. And we're also in the process of redoing our vendor form to critique and match what is needed from our insurance company. And one of the things that will be on there will be an indemnification of not only the chamber and also the city on the contract, on the vendor contract.
Councilman Boyd?
See, the basis genesis of Duncan Switch was, is it called the design group? Is that, and so basically what y'all done is offered that group who basically is the Duncan Switch activity.
Right.
Y'all allowing them to function under the chamber as an officially recognized subdivision of the chamber.
As a committee, that's correct.
Yeah, so when, in the comments in here, y'all are not gonna run Duncan Switch. Y'all
No.
are basically facilitating.
We're doing the administrative.
Y'all are gonna
portion of it.
facilitate the design group to continue their vision and their dream, but just give them more structure. Is that
The
correct?
problem was, to answer that and elaborate more, the reason we were finding that folks were calling the chamber folks because they come there first for everything. They were also trying to call Daniel Flores and other members of the Duncanville Design Studio, at options and all, and we were having problems because, you know, if you have 15 or 20 vendors, it's not a problem. But we have grown, and the market has grown so much. We're, you know, last couple of months, we've been around 50 vendors. We went today from 30-something to 43 by business close today, and I'm looking for another 50 by the weekend. So we had to have a central location and a central way to control it because it's grown out of hand. It's got bigger than we could do.
See, my point is, this is a great opportunity for the chamber to say, we're a structured organization. We provide opportunities for people with dreams and visions. And I think we need to get a lot of mileage out of that because there's other industries, other ideas and thoughts that can utilize the chamber, because the design group itself is not, quote, a member of the chamber. It just made up of some of the people, and probably not all of them are members. But I think it's not what we say sometimes, but how we say it.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure, and it's clear that we want to continue to recognize the design group as being the genesis. But you guys stepped up, offered them an opportunity for infrastructure. I think that's what hotel motel the tax is about. And for those who haven't spent it or accounted for it like you have with your ball tournaments and stuff, not everybody knows the accountability and how you have to go about it. So I'm glad to see the partnership be a partnership. Absolutely. But I want to make sure that we don't say something that those people who worked hard to live the dream, that, you know, language that, well, we're going to run Duncan Switch. And I knew that wasn't your intention. And I want to clarify that because there's a lot of people who hadn't been involved in a lot of stuff got involved because of Duncan Switch. And so I just wanted to clarify that because
And also that group meets once a month in the chamber boardroom.
yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that.
A
'cause
welcome partnership, a lot of good ideas.
I personally I think it's part of our new generation of our city. I think some of those people that are in that group are from East Dallas, and they're bringing a lot of ideas and thoughts that brought that part of town alive. And so I just wanted to encourage, not what we say, but how we say it sometimes.
Absolutely.
You know, and I've been attending those meetings also, and the invitation is to anybody that wants to come down. This is a think tank more than anything else. And boy, some of the ideas that are coming out of that for our city are great. So.
And what better way to, when people are coming to register for the booths that are coming from other cities or information on this event, is having all of our hotel information, our restaurant information right there, handy packets to give them, to make them do everything in Duncanville.
With our extension to 2 hours, to 2 o'clock, 1 hour the next 2 months on a trial basis. One of the reasons we're doing that, so we keep the crowd here and they can move right over to the Festival of Duncanville. And then we have the Ben Franklin celebration, the 5K, and then we have the Festival of Hope. We want to maintain that crowd and keep them here. And both groups have offered to our our vendors, that if they want to move over and partner there, they're not gonna charge them for an extra booth space, and they can just relocate to the other events.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. Steve, let me ask something on the printing. How many maps and how much are you shooting to have printed the first time?
Well, obviously, we're gonna sell ads and all in it. It will be open to anyone. The company, I've got 3 companies that I've discussed this with. Basically narrowed it down to 2, and they're fighting over it now. So they're waiting to hear from me tonight or tomorrow. But we will sell ads and get as much revenue out of that we can. Normally, a chamber takes revenue and gets a return back. We are not taking that return. We're gonna take it and put it into printing. And then the extra, that could be 2,500 to 3,000, but we're gonna print probably an additional 5,000 because the city has 0 maps, 0 information that they have. We want to share it. We want the city to have it for theirs. We also want to put it in every hotel room and have it to be in each hotel room in Duncanville, plus plenty to have to go to the museums that we have. That's the process. So we're looking probably about 6,000 to 8,000 right from the start.
Now,
Yeah.
is that kind of the equivalent of what's been printed of the map in the past, or?
I don't know, we turned in with the packet, I didn't have enough because this and that, but we're talking about doing a smaller publication, but it's actually, it will be a community profile, and it will have, the city and the chamber logo on it as a joint partnership, and on the inside, it has a pull-out map, the map of the city, so we'll have all the information, we'll get with city staff to create the wordage and the verbiage, and then we'll have a verbiage from the chamber, and then we'll have the ads, and we'll have things about our annual events, such as the festival and park, Christmas tree lighting, things such as that, the Lions Club Las Vegas night, Sandra Meadows Tournament, those things we'll have in an information packet.
Very good. I think at one time, didn't the chamber print like 10,000 maps at one time?
The last time was in 2007, 2008, we did the last membership, and the Economic Development Corporation spent some money. That was when we first had Papados and Costco and all these coming in, and then we also, the school district put a lot of advertising in it, and that time we printed 10,000 at that time of that particular book.
I just hope we're printing enough this time.
Well, and also, all of us who print political stuff know that next 5,000 costs very little.
Yeah.
And I'd rather look at that cost per unit, because, I don't think we're gonna build many new streets, and we're not gonna change a lot of new things, so I would encourage you to print more.
Also with printing too, it's not just the books alone. When we send out when we get a request for a information packet, relocation packet, we've had these folders before that the city has used. We don't have any of these anymore, so we're gonna print some, re-update some of the pictures, and I wanna share a chamber and a city logo on it, and inside it, we'll have the facts, we'll have one of these magazines, we'll have chamber information, and this is what we mail for a relocation packet. We'll have things from the school district, we'll have it all. But these things, by the time we print them with a full color and we get them out the door, mailed and all, you're looking at about anywhere from right at $5 to $5.50, possibly $6, depends on how much printing you put on it, per information, per packet. But we have 0 right now. We have people calling, asking. We used to have some things when we had groups that come into the Hilton or to the Best Western, and they ask if we have anything. We've given every keychain, we've given every printed material. We don't have pencils, we don't have anything right now.
On that folder, do you allow any opportunity for people to sponsor the folder?
Don't really want to. We could talk about it, but the reason is this is about the city. It's not about a business in the city. This is about us, and I think we need to have it more of the city and the chamber, just on that.
I was talking about the back. If you
Well, possibly could do that.
put on the back, say, provided compliments of,
Sure.
or whatever.
If they want to do that, we'll sell it,
Okay.
obviously.
Okay, seeing no further lights, the motion on the floor is consider approval of resolution, it's item number 25. That's the motion that we have on the floor. So if there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please. Okay, pass 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 26 is to take any necessary or appropriate action as a result from the closed session. And item number 2ES. The City Council shall convene into closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to consult with the city attorney and/or special legal counsel to seek legal advice concerning the notice of a willful violation by a chamber member of Article 2, Section 2.10 of the Duncanville Home Rule Charter, and to seek legal advice concerning procedural requirements for violations of any. We could not vote in executive session, but we did have an indication from the council that they wanted to consider motions. So we have a printed form here that's got actually 5 different questions on that form. And so at this time, we'll move into that. Motion number 1 is to choose the to close the investigation inquiry concerning any willful violation of Section 2.10 of the Home Rule Charter by any member of the current City Council, member of the 2012-2014 City Council members, and to take no further action. Now, this is a motion that if we move with this one, then the investigation is over. The council has decided not to take any action at all. So at this time, the chair will entertain a motion on item number 1. And Councilman Harvey, your light is on. Your light's not on? Okay. Motion to close the investigation inquiry. Is there a motion concerning this? Do have a lot. Dr. Dotson.
All right. Make a motion to close the investigation. I really would like to see the council focus on the city and economic development and put some of the stuff in the past, and let's go forward. And limit the expense on lawsuits as much as we can. So I would like to see a motion for it to end.
All right, there's a motion to close the investigation. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to close the investigation. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, will you please vote then? Okay, the motion failed 5-2. If that motion failed, we will not close the inquiry. The second motion is number 1, proceed with notice of charges against City Council member Johnette Jameson for And then we need to fill in the number of willful violations of Section 2.10 of the Home Rule Charter. 2, establish a public hearing date of 3, beginning at the time of the day, and adjudication of such charges by council. 3, adopt the attached rules of procedure to exclusively govern a public hearing in accordance with Section 2.15 of the Duncanville Home Rule Charter, and 4, suspend and amend the current rules of procedure pursuant to Section A6 thereof to the extent that they are inconsistent with the attached rules of procedure. Councilman Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to make a motion to proceed with notice of charges against Councilmember Johnette Jameson for 12 willful violations of Section 2.10 of the Home Rule Charter. Establish a public hearing date of November 22nd, 2014, beginning at 10 a.m. for consideration and adjudication of such charges by the council. Adopt the attached rules of procedure to exclusively govern such a public hearing in accordance with Section 2.15 of the Duncanville Home Rule Charter, and suspend and amend the current rules of procedure pursuant to Section A-6 thereof to the extent they are inconsistent with the attached rules of procedure.
Okay, there is that motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. The fill in the blanks that were on this form are for 12 willful violations. The hearing date would be November the 22nd, 2014, beginning at 10 a.m. Okay, those are the fill in the blanks. Is there any discussion? Okay, motion 2. There's no further discussion. Will you please vote? Zone. No, it's not. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. 5-2. Okay. Item number 3 is motion to appoint Corvette Bryant, Esquire, as hearing officer to preside over the hearing against Councilman Johnette Jameson for alleged willful violations of Section 2.10 of the Home Rule Charter, and direct that said hearing officer provide Councilmember Johnette Jameson with formal notice of said allegations, a copy of the rules of procedure adopted by the council, and the date set for the hearing thereof. Councilman Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to appoint Corbett Bryant, Esquire, as hearing officer to provide over the hearing against Councilmember Johnette Jameson for alleged willful violations of Section 2.10 of the Home Rule Charter, and direct that said hearing officer provide Councilmember Johnette Jameson with formal notice of said allegations, a copy of the rules and procedure adopted by council, and the date set for hearing thereof.
Okay. You heard the motion. That's item number 3. Is there any discussion? Oh, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Please vote. After 2. Pass. Motion number 4 is a motion to appoint the law firm of Lynn, Tillotson, Pinker, and Cox to prepare and present the evidence and arguments supporting the notice charges at the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that we appoint the law firm of Lynn Tillotson, Pinker, and Cox to present to prepare and present the evidence and arguments supporting the notice charges at the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Smith, you got your light on? Okay. Seeing no lights, will you please vote? 5-2, it passed. Okay, that was the discussion that we had in closed session. We now need to recess back into executive session. That's item number 27. And after we have had our executive session, we will close that and reconvene into the council chambers to talk about any necessary actions as a result. So, and the time is 10:08. Executive session, we stand adjourned at, let's make it 11:11. Okay?